I had a great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who was a nun. And I didn't get to see her very often, but she had a big influence on me. She was not like other adults. For one thing, she always wore the same dress, black most of the year and white in the summertime. And she wore a veil every day. I never saw her hair, except for one time when I was a little kid. She was staying at my grandmother's, and I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and there in the guest room, I saw a silhouette of Sister Mary Treese praying on the end of her bed with her hair all up in bobby pins. It was the most exciting thing I'd ever seen. The other thing that was different about her was that she moved around all the time. I never knew where she was. So I would say to my mother, "Are we going to visit Sister Mary Treese in Castleton?" And she'd say, "Oh, honey, she doesn't live there anymore. Now she's stationed in Watervliet. She's teaching 2nd grade." So then I'd say, "Are we going to go visit her in Watervliet now?" "Oh, honey, no, she's now stationed in Newburgh. She works at a parish." That's what nuns call it, you know, stationed. That's what they always say, like the train coming into the station and then moving on later. The thing that was interesting was when I would visit wherever she lived, it was always different. Sometimes it was a big old house, sometimes it was a little tiny room. I never knew what it was going to be like. But it really didn't matter, because all she owned was one box of possessions. She did not want to have a lot of stuff. And that showed up in lots of funny ways. In fact, she re-gifted everything she got. So I remember that one year, my Christmas gift was a plastic keychain that said Mary Ann on it. But we accepted that. That was part of who she was. And that practice comes from the gospel we heard today. The reason that women religious for all of these years have done that way of living is because of what we heard today. Foxes have dens to go to. Birds have nests. But Jesus is homeless. And his followers are too. There needs to be a certain homelessness that all of us have. A certain resistance to attachments. I heard a fascinating story about the missionaries who went to Scotland. They came from mainland Europe on boats, and when they got to Scotland, the very first thing they did before anything else was to pull the boats up on land and burn them. They burned their boats because they knew that it was going to be hard there. And if those boats were on the shore tempting them to go back, one day they would probably get in them and go. So they needed to take that off the table. First step, burn the boat. And missionaries still do some version of that today. I had a privilege a few years ago of going to learn Spanish in Bolivia at the language school used by the Maryknoll missionaries. If you get Maryknoll magazine, you know how much good work they do. And I got to meet all of these people with Irish and Italian last names from the United States who were living in the jungle somewhere or in a desert somewhere else. It was amazing. I met somebody who told me about the day that he received his assignment. He was a priest from Chicago. And nuns are always stationed somewhere. Priests get assignments. And he said that he was prepared for a long time, and he had a degree in French. So he had a pretty good sense that he was either going to be a missionary in a French-speaking country or maybe a teacher of French somewhere. So when he got his envelope with his assignment in it, he was so excited. He opened it up, and it said, "You are assigned to Peru." He didn't know a word of Spanish. He had no idea what he was going to do, but he went there and he loved it. He opened a school for children there, and then another school that was so successful. And he fit in Peru so well that he planned to live and die there. He actually bought himself a cemetery plot in Peru. And then he got a call one day. "We need you to come to Chicago." And he said, "Why?" And they said, "There's a lot of Latino students here that are not graduating high school, and we need someone to start a school like the one you started in Peru. And you're the only one who knows how to do it. We need you to come to Chicago." And so he went. So when I tell you a story like that, I feel like it's going to sound wussy for me to tell you about my going to Oneonta and how hard that was. That doesn't sound as impressive right now. But it was a shock to my system. The tradition in our diocese is the night before you're ordained a priest, you go and meet with the bishop in a room, just the two of you, and he gives you your assignment. And when he told me Oneonta, I thought, first of all, where even is that? I'd driven by it once. I didn't really know which direction it was. I didn't know anyone there. But I went and loved it. It's a college town. There's 2 colleges there. And it's surrounded by rural land, so I did things I've never done before. I went horseback riding with parishioners. I went target shooting, things I would never do. And I loved it. And then came August 29th, when I got a call. We have a new assignment for you, they said. We're moving you from a college town to a prison town. How do you like that? And of course, I love it here too. That's how it works. You have to trust and then move where the Spirit is telling you to move. I would never have chosen to go to Oneonta, and I would never have chosen the timing to come here either. It felt really inconvenient both times, and I had no idea where I was going. Sometimes because of that, people will say to sisters or to priests, "Is it ever hard to give up your freedom?" And of course it is. It's hard to go where you're told. But on a deeper level, it's a misunderstanding of what freedom really is. Being able to do what we want and not have anyone else tell us otherwise is a form of freedom, but it's not the highest form. It's not the best kind of freedom. It's not the fullness of freedom. The fullness of freedom is when we are available to whatever it is that God wants us to do next. Whatever our next assignment from God is, it's availability for that. It's freedom for that. That's what real freedom is. Because a lot of times what God wants us to do is not what we want to do. But of course, God knows better than we do what's best for us and where our true potential can be met. So it requires us to put God's will as a higher priority than our will. That's real freedom, being open and available to whatever comes next. So as we get ready for Independence Day, it feels like what a great opportunity for us to reflect on freedom, real freedom, the deepest form of freedom. How free are you? How free am I to do whatever God says next? If we think about it deeply, we realize we're not that free, because a lot of us have way too many attachments and possessions to just go. We have opportunities, but we can't take them because we're attached. We have too many obligations. We're not living lightly. We don't have one box of possessions like Sister Mary Treese. We don't have a superior who tells us it's not your choice, you have to go. So we can really hem and haw a lot. A good question for us might be, if we were to rank all of our priorities in life, where would we place God's will in the list? Especially when it often doesn't appeal to us. Do we place it high in the list, like top 1, 2, or 3? The truth is, probably not. At least if you're like me, it's really hard to do that. So I think we need to find little ways to test ourselves on this issue. It's such a big lifetime project, we can't do it all in a day. But maybe we can start small. And one thing that I'd invite you to think about doing, because I'm going to do it, is if you're like me, you have a tendency when you go away, like a lot of us do this time of year, to the lake or somewhere for a week or a weekend, you have a tendency to overpack. Does anybody do that? Pack way too much stuff? I'm seeing some elbows being thrown right now. Yeah, we pack too much stuff. I know I do it. And then when I get back, I go, I didn't wear half of this stuff. And why did I think we were going to make homemade ice cream while we were here? I did not need to bring all that. What was I thinking? Of course, we do that all the time. I think that would be a great opportunity for us to work on this. A lot of us think, how much can I bring before they charge me extra? Wouldn't it be better to reverse it and say, how little can I bring so I can test my freedom? How free can I be to just use what I've got? Bring just a little and use what I've got. There was a parish that had a great opportunity for college students. They did a service trip to Haiti, and a bunch of college students went, and there were chaperones to guide them. The chaperones gave them a long packing list of things to bring, because Haiti is the poorest country in our hemisphere, and there's many things you can't get there. So the chaperones wanted to make sure people were prepared. The day came to show up at the airport. There came all the college students with their rolling luggage and their garment bags, except for one kid, Matt. Matt came with just a backpack. And the chaperone said, did you already check your luggage? And he said, no, this is all I brought. And they were worried because they thought he is not going to have what he needs. He's way underprepared. But interestingly, Matt was the one who was always available in Haiti to do whatever. He always had his arms around the Haitian people. He was always playing with kids because all he had was a backpack. Everyone else was rolling their luggage over cobblestones and through mud pits, trying to figure out what to do with it. Who's going to watch our luggage while we go over here? He didn't have any of that problem. His arms were free. His hands were open. And all the pictures tell the story. All the pictures from that trip show Matt with his arms around the Haitian people, and everyone else had a hand on their luggage. So this is a big lifetime project. We've got to figure out how we can inch God's will up higher in our priority list and see if we can live light and free so that we can have a taste of true freedom.